There is something about a person who is comfortable alone that draws a very specific kind of human toward them. Not the kind that wants to build something real, the kind that wants to extract something available. And if you have ever been a genuine loner, someone who actually prefers their own company, who doesn't need the crowd, who has learned to be at peace in the silence that terrifies most people, then you already know what it feels like to have that peace discovered by someone who immediately began treating it as a resource. Here's what they never tell you about being a loner. Society has spent generations pathologizing your preference for solitude, calling it antisocial, calling it concerning, asking if you're okay if something happened, if you've considered talking to someone. And that constant low-grade pressure to explain yourself, to justify your contentment, to prove that your solitude isn't a symptom, it creates something in you that certain types of people find irresistible. It creates a person who is already practiced at tolerating discomfort from others, already trained to give people the benefit of the doubt, already inclined to assume that someone reaching towards you must have a reason worth respecting. They don't. Not always. Not even most of the time. The fake friends that loners attract are not random. They are not accidents of proximity or bad luck in social selection. They are drawn by something specific. The combination of your depth and your availability. Your depth makes you interesting to them. Your availability, the fact that you don't have 15 other people competing for your attention, that your social bandwidth is not crowded, that you will actually listen when they speak, makes you useful. And the people we are about to describe have learned, consciously or not, to look for exactly that combination. What makes this particularly painful for loners is the way it plays out. You didn't want many friends to begin with. You were not out there collecting people. Someone found their way into the small, carefully maintained space of your life, and you let them in, which for a loner is not a casual act. It is a considered one. It means something. And then you discover that for them, it meant something very different. That the intimacy you thought was mutual was actually directional. That the connection you believed was real was, on their side, a transaction. And the worst part is not the betrayal itself. The worst part is what it does to your already complicated relationship with other people. Because you were already someone who needed evidence before you trusted, already someone who kept their circles small because large circles felt exhausting and fake. And now you have evidence of a different kind. Evidence that even your careful selection, even your deliberate guardedness, even your genuine discernment was not enough to keep the extractors out. And so the circle gets smaller, and the walls get higher, and the loner who was already comfortable alone becomes a loner who no longer remembers what it felt like to want company at all. That is what fake friends cost a person who barely had friends to begin with. Not just a relationship, a willingness, a particular kind of openness that was already rare and now feels irreplaceable. So before we name the types, before we go through each specific variety of person who will find their way into a loner's life and take what they came for, understand that we are not talking about mild social disappointment. We are talking about a specific, repeated, deeply personal kind of betrayal that targets the most deliberate and considered form of human connection there is. And it is time to name every single one of them.
The first type is so common among loners that most of them have encountered at least one without ever naming what they were dealing with: the convenience friend. This is the person who exists in your life exclusively within the brackets of their own need. They are present when something is required of you, your time, your listening, your advice, your calm presence in their chaos, and they are absent in the precise way that water is absent from a dry riverbed. Not dramatically, not with explanation, simply not there. You will recognize them by the pattern of contact. They reach out when they are struggling, when something has gone wrong, when they need to process something and require an audience patient enough to actually hear them. And you, being a loner, being someone who takes conversation seriously, being someone who does not engage shallowly, you give them the real thing. You actually listen. You think carefully about what they've said. You offer something genuine rather than the reflexive social comfort that most people dispense like a vending machine. and they feel it. They tell you that you're different, that talking to you is not like talking to other people, that you actually get it. What they do not tell you, what they perhaps do not even consciously know, is that what they are describing is not a friendship. It is a service. And like most services, it is only thought about when it is needed. The convenience friend does not call when things are good, does not reach out to share something they found interesting, or to ask how your project is going, or to suggest doing something together simply for the pleasure of each other's company. The relationship has a single direction and a single activation condition, their distress, and outside of that condition, you do not exist to them in any meaningful way. For a loner, this is especially insidious because loners do not reach out constantly even to people they genuinely care about. The low contact does not immediately register as a red flag because low contact is your baseline. You don't expect daily messages. You don't require constant check-ins. You are perfectly capable of not hearing from someone for 3 weeks and picking up exactly where you left off. And so the pattern of the convenience friend, present in crisis, absent otherwise, can go unnoticed for a very long time because the absence feels almost normal. Until you need something. Until the moment arrives when you are the one struggling, when you are the one who could use a real conversation, when you reach out for once instead of waiting to be reached, and the response is thin, distracted, a fraction of what you gave so many times, not because they are cruel people necessarily, but because the relationship was never structured for this direction of need. You were the resource. Resources do not have needs. Resources have availability. The second type in this chapter is the crisis harvester, and they are darker than the convenience friend in a specific way. The convenience friend uses your presence passively. They absorb what you offer when they need it, without really thinking about the dynamic. The crisis harvester actively seeks your pain. They are drawn to loners in moments of difficulty with an enthusiasm that should be alarming, but rarely registers as such because it looks on the surface exactly like genuine care. They appear when you are going through something hard. They ask questions, many questions, detailed questions, the kind that feel like deep interest in your well-being. They position themselves as the person who can handle the weight of what you're carrying. They say things like, "I'm always here for you," and "You can tell me anything," and "I'm not going anywhere." And for a loner who has heard those words rarely, and meant them rarely, and valued them enormously when they felt true, those words land like water on parched ground. But watch what happens when the crisis resolves, when you are no longer drowning, when you have processed what you needed to process, and you are okay again, and the story of your difficulty has reached its conclusion. The crisis harvester fades, not always completely and not always immediately, but the quality of their attention diminishes in direct proportion to the diminishment of your suffering. And if you pay attention, if you watch the pattern across enough time, you will notice that they have a way of arriving at the beginning of hard seasons and disappearing at the beginning of good ones. Because your pain was not something they came to help you carry. It was something they came to witness, to be close to be needed through. And when the pain resolved, the thing that made you interesting to them resolved with it.
There's a type of person who befriends a loner not because of who the loner is, but because of what the loner represents. The reflected glory seeker finds loners who have something, a particular skill, a creative gift, an unusual intelligence, a quiet reputation for depth or competence or unconventional thinking, and attaches themselves to that something with a consistency they never extend to the person carrying it. You will recognize this type by the way they introduce you to others. They are proud of knowing you, which would be touching if the pride were about you rather than about what knowing you says about them. They reference your work or your thinking in conversations where you are not present. They invoke your name as a kind of credential. "I have this friend who,"
followed by something you did or thought or created. They are collectors of interesting people, and you are an interesting person, and the relationship functions primarily as a curatorial achievement on their part. What makes this particularly confusing for loners is that the attention is real. The reflected glory seeker genuinely engages with your ideas and your work and your conversation. They are not absent the way the convenience friend is absent. They show up. They are interested. The interest just has a specific orientation. It flows toward the parts of you that reflect well on them and away from the parts of you that are simply human. Your struggles don't interest them the way your brilliance does. Your uncertainty doesn't engage them the way your confidence does. Your need doesn't activate them the way your impressiveness does. And because loners are often people who are deeply uncomfortable with being impressive, who would genuinely prefer to be known than to be admired, this dynamic creates a peculiar loneliness. You are seen, but not the way you wanted to be seen. You are valued, but not for the things that feel most true. You are held up and displayed and spoken about with genuine enthusiasm by someone who has never actually asked how you are and waited for the real answer. The depth miner is related but distinct. Where the reflected glory seeker wants to be associated with your brilliance, the depth miner wants to consume it. They are drawn to loners specifically because loners tend to have rich interior lives, the consequence of spending more time alone with their own thoughts than most people ever do. They have perspectives that are unusual, insights that are hard-won, a particular quality of attention and reflection that is genuinely rare, and the depth miner wants all of it. They will ask you extraordinary questions, the kind that feel like genuine philosophical interest, like someone who actually wants to understand the world more deeply and has identified you as a source of that understanding. They want to know how you think about things, about life, about people, about meaning, about the things that most people never think about carefully. And you, being a loner who has thought about all of these things extensively and rarely gets asked, open up in a way that surprises even you. And then they take what they learned and they leave. Not always physically. Sometimes they stay in the loose periphery of your life as a kind of ongoing resource to dip into when they need a perspective or an insight or a reframe. But the reciprocity never arrives. They do not offer their own depths in return. They are not interested in being known the way they are interested in knowing you. The relationship has a direction, and you are always at the giving end of it. And eventually, you realize that every profound conversation you had with them left you feeling somehow emptied rather than met.
The social prop is perhaps the most openly transactional of the fake friend types that loners attract, and yet it is frequently the hardest to identify because the transaction is so normalized in social culture that it barely registers as a transaction at all. This is the person who needs you present in specific social situations, not because they want your company, but because your presence serves a function in those situations. Sometimes that function is practical. You are the person they call when they need someone to accompany them somewhere they don't want to go alone. The event, the appointment, the gathering where showing up without anyone would feel exposing. You are the plus one, the social buffer, the proof of concept that they are not without connection. And you agree because you care about them, and because the asked seemed genuine, and because the specific shape of the need was not immediately recognizable as the shape it actually was. Sometimes the function is more social than practical. The social prop needs you in group settings because your presence changes how they are perceived by others. With you there, they have someone to demonstrate their warmth to, someone to include, to reference, to gesture toward as evidence that their social world contains genuine depth. You become part of their social performance without ever being consulted about whether you want the role. For a loner, this type is particularly exhausting because it pulls you into exactly the kinds of social situations you naturally avoid.
The large gatherings, the events with people you don't know, the extended group dynamics that drain you faster than almost anything else. And you go repeatedly because you believe the friendship is real, and because the real friendships you have are few enough that you invest heavily in each one. And then you notice that outside of those specific situations, the relationship is essentially dormant, that you are summoned for social occasions and otherwise not thought of, that your value in their life is indexed to your physical presence in contexts that serve their needs. The reformer is the type that hurts the most because it comes wrapped so thoroughly in the language of care that it is almost impossible to name without feeling ungrateful. The reformer is the fake friend who has decided, usually without your input and often without your awareness, that you are a project, that your preference for solitude is a problem to be solved, that your small social circle is a symptom of something that needs treating, that their friendship with you is partly an act of rescue. They invite you to things constantly, not because they think you'll enjoy the specific thing, but because they believe exposure to more social situations will be good for you. They introduce you to their other friends with an energy that feels less like sharing and more like prescribing. They comment on your solitude with a concern that is entirely genuine and entirely maddening, asking if you've been getting out enough, suggesting that maybe you'd feel better if you spent more time around people, implying through their persistent attention that the life you have built and chosen and are genuinely content in is somehow insufficient. And the most painful thing about the reformer is that they believe they love you. They are not performing concern. They are not using the language of care strategically. They genuinely think that your way of being in the world is a condition rather than a character, a problem rather than a preference, something to be gently and persistently moved away from rather than respected and received. And so their friendship is always accompanied by this low hum of correction, this ongoing suggestion that the version of you they are trying to produce is the version worth knowing, and the version you actually are, the one that was here before they arrived, is the thing they are trying to fix.
Here is the thing about naming these types. The point is not to give you a taxonomy for suspicion, not to hand you a checklist you can run through every time someone new enters your life so you can preemptively categorize them as a threat. The point is recognition. Because the specific damage that fake friends do to loners is not just relational. It is not just the loss of a specific person or the waste of a specific investment of trust. It is perceptual. It changes how you see the space where connection might happen. It teaches you that your discernment was wrong, that your instincts failed you, that even your careful and considered and deliberate way of letting people in was not enough to protect you. And that lesson, absorbed repeatedly, confirmed across multiple types and multiple experiences, does something to the already complicated relationship a loner has with human connection. It makes the solitude feel less like a preference and more like a conclusion, less like something you chose and more like something that was chosen for you by the accumulated evidence of every person who entered your small circle and used what they found there. And that shift from chosen solitude to concluded solitude is the most insidious cost of the fake friends we have been describing. Because chosen solitude is a form of self-knowledge. Concluded solitude is a form of defeat. So what do you actually do? Not with a specific person, not how do you confront the convenience friend or exit the reformer's project, but with the broader reality that these types exist and that loners attract them disproportionately, and that your depth and your availability and your genuine capacity for real connection are the very things that make you a target for people who want to consume rather than reciprocate. You stay specific. You watch for reciprocity, not as a transaction, not as a ledger where every gesture must be matched immediately, but as a pattern over time. Does this person show up when you need something, or only when they do? Does this person know things about your inner life or only share things about theirs? Does this person's interest in you survive the absence of your usefulness to them? These are not suspicious questions. They are the questions that genuine connection can answer easily. The fake ones cannot. You trust the discomfort that comes after conversations where you gave a great deal and received very little in return. That specific kind of emptiness is not ingratitude, and it is not you being difficult, and it is not evidence that you expect too much from people. It is your interior telling you something true about the direction of the exchange. Listen to it. You do not have to act on it immediately. You do not have to confront or cut or dramatically restructure anything. But listen, because that signal, the one that says something about this is directional in a way that does not feel mutual, is your own discernment working correctly. The fake friends did not break your ability to read people. They revealed it. And finally, the fact that these types are drawn to you, the fact that your depth makes you interesting to people who want to consume depth without offering any of their own, the fact that your peace makes you attractive to people who want to borrow it without building any of their own, that is not a flaw in you. That is the cost of being someone with something real inside them in a world where real things are rare, and people who have not done the work of building them will always be drawn to the ones who have. You were not wrong to let people in. You were not naive to care. You were not foolish to invest genuinely in something that turned out to be one-sided. You were a person who took connection seriously enough to make it real on your end. That is not the problem. That is the only thing worth protecting.